5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. The struggle for freedom of India was a long and difficult journey marked by sacrifice, determination, and the collective will of millions of people. It was not a movement driven by a single leader or a small group, but rather a national awakening that involved people from all walks of life. Men, women, farmers, laborers, students, and even children contributed in their own way to the cause of independence. However, history has often been selective in highlighting the contributions of only a few individuals, while the efforts and sacrifices of countless others remain forgotten or underappreciated. In the early stages of the movement, many thinkers and reformers played a key role in sowing the seeds of resistance. These early contributors helped awaken a sense of national identity and encouraged people to question colonial rule. They promoted education, self-reliance, and social reforms that laid the foundation for a larger political movement. Yet, their names rarely appear in school textbooks or official commemorations. Their voices and writings were powerful, but history tends to remember only the few who stood in the spotlight during critical moments. The struggle saw participation from various regions across the subcontinent. In small villages and remote corners, local leaders mobilized people to resist colonial policies. Many of them faced brutal repression, imprisonment, and even death. These regional efforts were vital in sustaining the movement and building momentum. Still, the central narrative of the freedom struggle often centers around a few iconic figures, overshadowing the equally important contributions made in lesser-known regions. One of the most striking aspects of the freedom movement was the involvement of women. Despite societal restrictions and cultural barriers, countless women came forward to take part in protests, distribute leaflets, provide shelter to revolutionaries, and even take up arms. Many were arrested, tortured, and subjected to inhumane treatment. Their courage and commitment were extraordinary, yet their stories are not as widely recognized. When we speak of the leaders of the freedom struggle, the focus is predominantly on men, ignoring the critical roles played by women behind the scenes and on the front lines. The youth of the country were another force that drove the movement forward. Students left their schools and colleges to join protests and rallies. Young people participated in underground movements, carried messages, and often acted as couriers for those hiding from the authorities. Many lost their lives or spent years in prison. Their contributions, while known within some circles, are not given the recognition they deserve in the broader narrative of independence. There were also numerous individuals and groups who chose the path of armed resistance. They believed that peaceful methods alone would not bring about independence and took up revolutionary means to challenge colonial authority. These revolutionaries faced severe consequences for their actions. They were hanged, exiled, or imprisoned for life. Despite their unwavering courage and sacrifice, they are often portrayed as extremists or are simply ignored in official histories. Their stories are sometimes limited to footnotes, even though their actions inspired many and kept the spirit of resistance alive. The role of tribal communities in the struggle is another largely forgotten chapter. These communities fought valiantly against the exploitation and displacement caused by colonial policies. They staged uprisings and resisted the British administration with whatever limited resources they had. Their rebellions were fierce and often resulted in harsh retaliation from the authorities. These contributions rarely find a place in mainstream accounts of the freedom struggle, perhaps because they do not fit into the conventional political narrative. The labor class and peasants also played a significant role. Strikes, protests, and uprisings among workers and farmers were frequent and widespread. They challenged economic exploitation and demanded rights and dignity. These movements were often brutally suppressed, but they helped expose the injustices of the colonial system. Unfortunately, the voices of these working-class heroes have not been preserved with the same respect as those of political leaders. Religious and cultural leaders, artists, poets, and writers too contributed to the struggle in unique ways. They used their platforms to spread messages of unity, resistance, and hope. Songs, plays, and literature became tools of protest and inspiration. These cultural contributions helped foster a shared identity and encouraged people to believe in a free and united nation. In addition to those who lived within the country, many Indians living abroad also played a crucial role. They raised international awareness about the plight of their homeland, lobbied foreign governments, and provided financial and moral support to the movement. Their global advocacy created pressure on colonial rulers and brought international legitimacy to the demands for independence. After independence was achieved, The process of writing history began to favor certain figures and events over others. Political motivations, institutional biases, and the desire to build a unified national identity led to a simplified version of the freedom struggle. In this version, a handful of leaders were elevated to iconic status, while many others were sidelined. It is important to acknowledge that the freedom of India was not the result of the actions of a few individuals alone. It was a collective effort, a shared dream carried forward by millions. Every protest, every pamphlet, every speech, and every act of resistance mattered. Each person who stood up against injustice, regardless of recognition, played a part in the eventual victory. The real strength of the freedom struggle lay in its diversity. People from different regions, religions, languages, and social backgrounds came together for a common cause. The movement was not uniform, and strategies often differed, but the goal remained the same. It was the courage and sacrifice of countless unsung heroes that made freedom possible. Recognizing their contributions is not just about setting the historical record straight, but about honoring the true spirit of the struggle. Let us remember that the freedom we enjoy today is built upon the lives and efforts of many whose names may never be known, but whose impact is forever imprinted in the soul of the nation. Stop.